This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Since losing my dad and my grandmother this year, my poor husband has fallen victim to being my therapist on top of being my husband and life partner and everything else. So I reached out to BetterHelp, not only about sponsoring the podcast, but for therapy for me. And it's super easy, very user-friendly. I have both an app and the website. I can reach out directly to my therapist when needed. I also have a live session every Monday or Tuesday. We talk ad nauseum for like 45 minutes about all the things that are going on in my life. And I'm telling you, immediately after those sessions, I feel like refreshed and rejuvenated and like I've just taken a 10-pound weight off my shoulders. If you are interested in BetterHelp, in online therapy, in getting your life together, I suggest that you go to betterhelp.com/BGP. Again, betterhelp.com/BGP for Big Girl Pants Podcast. And thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring the podcast. Hi, welcome to Big Girl Pants Podcast, where we talk about health, wellness, careers, parenting, relationships, and everything in between. I am your host, April Melton. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Please welcome back Jake Thompson from Compete Every Day. Jake and I were having such a good conversation. We just decided to roll and see where it went.
I would say every fight for equality is to be treated equally, regardless of...
So if you're not demonstrating that, how are you going to say that you're fighting for that?
Because where most people, I think, fall into is instead of equal, they feel like it completely should swing the other direction and be unequal in the opposite favor versus because they're in their heads, it's the only way we get to the middle. And
still dumb.
In reality, swinging all the way to the other side eliminates people that would have been on your side.
Yes.
Because you've alienated. I mean, it's essentially what happens in politics right now. Everybody's getting so far out to the left and the right. You alienate the majority of people in the middle versus how do we work toward the middle instead of talking about outlier cases or trying to find equal footing and create equal opportunity instead of punishing others to create unequal situations. Everybody wants an equal outcome. There's no such thing as an equal outcome. And
that's called socialism.
That is socialism. I mean, it's like going to the gym. Just because you join a gym membership, everybody should have muscles. No, because not everybody's going to go in there and do the damn work.
I want to look like a peak performance bodybuilder, but I only want to do cardio one day a week.
Yeah.
This is what needs to happen for me because this is the amount of effort that I'm willing to put in.
What you don't need to do is the cardio. You just need to lift weights faster.
Yes, faster.
Stay off the Stairmaster.
Dumb.
Slow. I know. But I look at it, I laugh because I see people, I mean, you do too. You see people in the gym that are on like a stationary bike or elliptical or treadmill and they're just kind of walking, which is fine to get up and move. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's fine to get up and move. I'm not at all hating that. And if that that's where they're starting. Yeah. Amen. Like I love seeing those people in the gym that you know have never been there because that's braver than the people that are in shape going in the gym.
Yep.
However, when the people go in there and they complain about all this work they're doing for the goal and it's not working, they've never stopped to evaluate, like, that's not really the goal. Like, I can burn more in a 10-minute, give me a rower, give me a wall ball, give me some burpees, than you will in an hour on a treadmill.
Right. And your body will continue to burn for like 24 hours after that 10 minutes wall ball.
Yeah, wouldn't you just want to get like 10 minutes done and get the rest of your day back?
I feel like it's 50-50. Maybe it's 33.33, 33, and 33. Like, one bucket of people know that they need to be doing more or they need to be doing better. They're just choosing not to. The middle bucket doesn't know because ignorance is bliss.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm doing something good by going to this treadmill and holding on to the handles and walking for an hour. And then the others, they're just kind of, it's good enough.
Well, yeah, that's the most dangerous slope of anything in life.
And that's like where I have to make sure that I don't allow myself to go.
Yeah.
I can't just be good enough. It's good enough for right now, or it's good enough for today. It
slips through everything.
Or it's good enough for whatever, you know?
And that the mentality seeps into everything. And there's a difference because somebody listening is probably going to email you pissed off and they're going to give us an outlier case.
Such a bitch.
But what they're looking at is a single day that, like, you go into the gym and mentally you don't have it, the workout's going to suck. But if you push through that workout, even if it's not your best,
Do you know how many fucking days I have like that?
there's tons. But that's the point.
At
is
least
like you
once
have
a
to,
week.
you got to push through it. Like you just got to be like, this is going to be a crappy workout. Mentally, I'm dead. Body's tired, but I'm going to get the work done. You're going to leave better because you reinforce the identity. This is what I do. This is how I work out. I'm not a person that needs to feel motivated to do work.
Yeah.
However, if every single day it's like, just do enough to get through, then you create that terrible habit. And I think, that third party, all they do is that. I think the second party, the ones that don't know any better, that's what main gyms love because they're like, ooh, we can get you to sign up for our extra programs
and our personal training.
And keep you involved. Yeah. We'll keep you involved on that.
So much money.
I mean, but be honest, the big gyms don't even really want you in there. They just want your membership to recur.
Literally, they hope you never come.
Yeah, the small gyms want you in there. Smaller studios and programs want you in there because they need the bodies in there and the people. But yeah, in that first group, then we can split that first group into a whole other animal.
I know, like 10 different groups.
Oh my God. The stereotypical gym people you see every day. But yeah, I think that's kind of the mix that you see, but you see it in everything. You see it in staffing, you see it in sales, you see it. There's the people that know what they're doing and want to get better. There's the people that have no idea what they're doing and they're clocking in and clocking out. And then you have the people that realize I just want to collect a paycheck and go home and I don't really care if I'm that good at it as long as I don't get fired.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's like you said, that it's in every industry. It's in every situation.
But you want to know the best part?
What?
If you make the choice to be in that top 33%, because make no mistake, it is a choice to be in that group, to learn more, to apply it, to go into it. The chances of you succeeding and reaching goals is infinitely better than being in the bottom 66.
But what if I just grew up with mediocrity and I'm just okay with mediocrity?
That's okay.
What if I just want to be normal?
Why
can't I just be normal, Jake?
Well, normal isn't winning.
What is normal?
Normal's not winning. I mean, they don't make podiums and I mean, I guess they do now make trophies for everybody, which is a joke. But the podium, trophies. One team wins the Super Bowl, one team wins the title, one team wins district. If you're thinking high school, one person wins salesman, woman of the year. Like awards are for the top, and you're not always going to be at the top. But if you chase that, you put yourself in an infinitely better position because at the end of the day, people don't do it for a number of reasons, but fear's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Like we're all deep down afraid. We're afraid of what people are going to think. We're afraid because we see April on Instagram balling out at the gym and we're where she was 5-6 years ago. 10 years ago, and that's all we see. We don't see every rep she put in along the way, every meal she chose to eat, and so we don't start because we're afraid we're not going to be as good now as she is now. We're afraid that we're going to lose friends because they're less ambitious than we do, and they don't want to go to the gym and work out.
That's a tough realization. How many friends have you lost?
It's interesting. There's a handful of people I've intentionally cut out or cut down the amount of time I spend with.
Right.
And I think that's more.
Did you do it consciously?
It was very conscious.
Okay.
Some of the folks you just don't hang out with as much because when you're going to the gym or CrossFit or like you're around those people an hour every day.
And those people have similar goals to you.
And some of the people that you normally hang out with in life, you only see on the weekends.
Yeah.
So you kind of hang out with some of those folks more. Some of the people like you just intentionally invest less time. So you may go from seeing them once a week, once every 2 weeks to like maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You keep the relationship there from a standpoint of how can I pour into this individual?
Sure.
And I'm thinking of one specifically of somebody I know and they've had a rough couple of years. But they're like a constant zigzag. Every time I talk to them, they're trying something different, new business, new change, whatever, instead of just like work the process. And I saw them post something online the other day, and I've intentionally already spaced the gap to where I see them about once every 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Grab coffee, lunch, something.
Whatever, yeah.
And I saw him promoting like how to be a full-time speaker. Like, I'm going to start this new course. And I'm like, bro.
Are you a full-time speaker, bro?
No, he's not at all. Like, he's helping out with a conference and event, and he's doing a little bit, but like, I know his financials. I know his gigs. I know that, like, and that just, like, I saw it and I was like, done, like, dead. Like, that's it. Like, when I see that, when I see that the people that there's a difference between being like, hey, I want to help you do this, to, hey, I'm going to teach you how to build this giant speaking business.
Yeah.
Those are two different animals. Because as a coach, the misconception is you have to know everything. And really, as a coach and mentor, you just need to know 1 to 2 things more than the other person.
Sure.
Like, I just need to be 1 to 2 steps ahead of you to help you.
Yeah. That's why this is like your 12th time on the show.
Yeah, I just want to hang out.
Yeah.
Just want to hang out.
I'm just here for the fun.
I'm just here for the fun. I'm here to see you and talk shit. But when you're marketing yourself and positioning as this, like, I'm going to help you reach this massive thing, and you haven't done that, that's where I have major issues.
Yeah.
And that's social. That's the toxicity of social. I mean, we've talked about it. And
Don't you feel like those people, though, too, they kind of get exposed? Like, you remember that whole Brittany Dawn fitness thing? She was even on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
She wasn't even a certified personal trainer, and she was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from YouTube and Instagram and her clients.
I think you've got to get to that level. I think you have to get to that. I think you've got to get to that upper echelon. And I don't
fake?
think, yeah, well, from an income
you gotta
standpoint.
You got to be real successful at being
fake. You do. Because you've got to make a certain amount of money and you will get exposed. I don't think enough people do the snake oil salesman long enough to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so, but I think a lot of people are still believing what they see online, which, like, I was laughing the other day. There's a guy I follow, runs a uber successful brand. I bet you follow it and love it. I think their branding and marketing is phenomenal. But he made a post with another very successful guy from a financial standpoint, social standpoint, all of that. And was like, 6 years ago, we had nothing. We started with nothing. And now we're selling $1 million of t-shirts in a day. Like, we've got this thriving brand and we're crushing it. And this guy's doing da-da-da-da. And he's talking about, we didn't have anything. We started from nothing. We didn't have this audience, and do as I do, just fucking hustle, all that. And they're posed in front of a Lambo. And I'm sitting here like, and I'm like, bro, like, you could have had the two of y'all sitting somewhere without that, and I would have maybe taken you more seriously. I know you had a lot of money when you started this brand. However, that's very different than starting from nothing. If you go build a big business and you have tons of capital and you put into starting something, it's a whole different ballgame than, I got like $3,000 or $4,000. I'm going to throw in some shirts. Let's figure this shit out. But when you're posed in front of a high-end exotic sports car, you like, and people, like, I'm watching the comments like, oh yeah, man, you're so inspiring. I love this. I'm starting from nothing. I'm doing this. And I'm like, you guys are missing what's sitting right in front of you. And that's just social.
Or right behind them.
Right behind them. We believe what we see on there because we don't, most people on here aren't faking too much. And if they are faking a little bit on what they post, they're justifying it in their head because that's their reality. Yeah. And so we see all this crap online and we assume like what we see is factually accurate, and it's not. It's so fake.
It's only like 10% of our life, social. And everybody's going to pick the best parts, right? The best 10%.
Because we're afraid of showing anything else. I told a scary story on stage for the first time the other day that I've never admitted in person. And it was the most terrifying intro. It was also I think the best. And I'm really excited to get more reps with it. But it's the idea, like, we do something and then we tell ourselves an internal story that's different than what it was to try to justify what we did.
Oh, for sure.
Why we did it, because we're always worried about protecting our ego.
Yeah. What was the scary story? You going to tell us on
happily.
BGP?
So if you hear me do a keynote, if you've heard me talk before, I've never talked about it. I actually opened the talk with this and the idea that, so my biggest regret in life is allowing fear to talk me out of going after my dreams in college. I went to TCU to play football, tore my shoulder up the summer before I got there.
What position did you play?
It was QB. Quarterback.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course you were.
Dude,
I could totally see that.
So I football was love. I wanted to do it. Got hurt the summer before I got there. Doctor said you can go play. You're going to have surgery and probably multiple others because of your size. You're going to get just beat up. Or we can do some shots. We can try this strict rehab protocol and see if it heals. And then you can just go to college and enjoy being a college student. And at the time, I was like, I'm going to just go to college. And then going to the first football game at TCU, I was like, hell no, I'm going to play. Like, I want to be out there. I lived in the athletic dorm. Football guys knew me. They would come out to watch intramural games and be like, you need to come play. And second week of spring semester, I was like, I showed up at the offices. I'm like ready to go.
And did you have surgery at this point or no?
No, I rehabbed it. Shoulder healed up. I was taking a gamble with the impingement and everything, but
Is that what you had, a nerve impingement?
Yeah.
Okay.
So showed up, and like traditional athletic academic walk-ons, because that's what I was on. I had partial football scholarship, partial academic scholarship.
Oh my God, I had brains and brawn. Okay.
No,
I was so smart.
I got lucky that I had a teammate that went to school there, and they still had a little bit left out when I decided May of my senior year. And so I show up, and like walk-ons, you're like, go figure it out.
Yeah.
And growing up, like for me as a small kid, I had to outsmart you and outwork you. I was never going to be more athletically talented than you.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting on there. I remember the first couple of days having to work out by myself because of my schedule. I remember not getting a chance to throw. Anytime I was like, hey, I'd love to like start learning playbooks and stuff, I just kind of got dismissed. And I started to panic in my own head that if I can't learn this stuff, I can't outsmart people. If I can't outsmart people, I can't play. And I still will never forget, and I told this on stage, I was like, the last Friday of the first week of workouts, I finished working out by myself. I felt super awkward in the weight room. The strength coach was like, whatever, didn't really, puny walk on. And I remember going into the locker room and having that just pit in my stomach, you don't belong here feeling, the imposter syndrome, knowing now what I know. It's like, you've never done this before. You're worried about your self-worth instead of focusing on the work. But at the time, I just had this pit in my stomach that I wasn't good enough, I didn't belong, and this was wrong. And literally walked out of the locker room that day and never went back.
Boo!
I know. Fear literally robbed me of my opportunity because I was too afraid. And I laugh looking back at it, because I've known that story and I've never told a soul. I always was like, oh, my shoulder. Like, shoulder didn't work out, and, I never really admitted it. And it haunted me. And I remember being at a conference a month ago and was like sitting there going back and forth with the guy about belief system. And he like challenged me, and it popped in. I was like, fuck, I have to tell this story. Like, I have to be vulnerable with my audience from the get-go. But I was like, I've got to change it. And it's funny looking at it now, because 10 and a half years ago when I started to compete, I took on Chief Encouragement Officer.
Yeah.
What's encouragement? To inspire courage. What's courage? Simply to do something when you're scared as shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And I was like, how funny that because I was afraid and I let fear talk me out of doing what I wanted most, I ultimately started a company to help people avoid that fate. Because at the end of the day, failure is a lighter burden than regret. And the regret of what if I'd done this? What if I'd bet on myself? What if I'd gone is always the heaviest thing. And so you carry that, and then you get to a point where you realize, cheers. You get to a point where you realize, like, it happened. I can't change it. It's part of who I am. What am I going to do with this knowledge and insight and experience to help other people avoid it? Yeah. And you get out of living in it, beating yourself up on it, and just say, F it, let's go. Yeah. And so, so it's really funny.
And like, what's the worst that can happen? But you fail, get back up, and you try again. But that's what we're afraid of. We're so afraid of all these what if and unknowns. And so, like, my focus in 2022 and kind of pushing forward is really focusing around the fear when it's the pit in your stomach, when it's discomfort, when it's fear of rejection, when it's what other people are going to say of what happens if I post this online and nobody likes it. Yeah. Like, that's what we're ultimately competing against, whether it's wearing a different mask or not. That's it. And so, so that's what I jammed out on stage. And I literally was like shaking telling that story on stage. You feel like it was effective? Did you cry? I probably would have cried. No, I didn't. But it was terrifying to tell that story, because you think about it, for years I've had this brand of compete every day, and then you tell people, like, I was too afraid to compete. And you like look in the mirror and you're like, am I a fucking fake? Like, who am I to tell all these people not to fail? And I fail. Yeah, and you have that, and you go through that whole internal dialogue that we all do. What a fraud you are. I know. And so that's what I laughed about, is like, and I even mentioned that. I was like, listen, guys, on Thursday, I was like, I've never told this on stage because I allowed fear to keep telling me, if I tell you this story, you're going to think I'm a fraud. Here's why I know I'm not. Exactly. And it was funny afterwards, all the people that came up afterwards and were wanting to talk about, like, I never thought about it like fear before, but that's what it was. Like,
take action in my work. I wait for my boss to tell me what to do because I'm scared to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
When my boss needs me to be more proactive and make moves, and then they can help me adjust.
And if I mess up, then it's like forgiveness instead of permission kind of thing.
It is all that.
That's me. I get in trouble for that a lot.
I 100% see.
Really surprised.
See that. But I bet you weren't always that way.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was such a wuss. And I was a bully. Because I was afraid of so many things and because I was jealous of so many other people. I grew up so broke. Like, I was essentially the second parent in my house because my mom was a single mom and then I had 2 brothers. And so it was like, well, you're the oldest girl, so you're like a caretaker, so you're going to help me take care of your brothers. So I was cooking, cleaning. I was changing diapers at like the age of 2. Yeah. So it was like, I'm parent number 2. I'm like, you know, whatever. I wouldn't call myself like the dad, but I was the parent number 2. And we just took care of the boys. Like, that's what we did. Yeah. And then it was ever so funny, that I just assimilated with the boys. Like, I played football. I did stuff like that. Like, I was the ice box, right? Like, that was my persona. And I took that on.
Great call.
Great movie. But it was like, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cheerleader, a dancer, do girly shit. You know, I was a girl. Yeah. Like, I wanted to be feminine, but my mom was a tomboy and I had 2 brothers. So it was like, you know, it was just by proxy, I just became like a tomboy. But that's also why all the things that I learned in my childhood and all the fuck ups that I had, I'm teaching them to Chloe. Like, we were talking 2 nights ago, and she has a super fluffy pink rug in her room, and before she goes to bed, because she has a bunk bed, so she gets on the top bunk, and I am not getting my ass on the top bunk. But before she goes to bed, we sometimes will lay on the pink carpet, and she'll just lay like on my arm, and we'll talk, and like all the things that I learned growing up, I want her to learn in her own way, but I also want her to learn through me too. Yeah. Like, I want to teach her whatever it is that you want to do. Like, because I played soccer, played football, did all those things because my mom wanted me to do them. And I don't think that she knew how much of an influence she had on me. It's kind of like Dawson's Creek, right? I don't want your laugh. Like, I
never seen a single episode of that show.
What?
Never.
No, sorry, that's Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues. Thank you. It's the guy though. It's the Vanderbeek.
It's Vanderbeek.
Yeah. So I know that line. I was like,
he's like,
is that Dawson's Creek too? I know Varsity.
I totally messed that up. But it's like that. Like, she wanted to play football. She played flag football. Like, she wanted to do those things. So I thought, well, she's vicariously living through me. As an adult, I see that now, but not back then. But she wanted me to do that, so I wanted to make her happy. I wanted to make her proud, you know? And I did that, and I caused some permanent damage in my back. Squatting like 265 in 8th grade. I mean, what's wrong with that? I'm a girl. It's fine. But I want Chloe to know that, like, she's allowed to fail. She's allowed to fuck up. She's allowed to do the things that she wants to do, but also like learn through experience. If you want to try dance, try dance. You want to try cheerleading, try cheerleading. You want to be a girl, be a girl. Just be a damn good girl. Yeah. Like, don't be a mean girl. Don't be a shitty girl. Like, and when other people hurt your feelings, like, take it in, learn from it, and then move on. And don't ever do that to anybody else because you know how shitty it feels.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a wild. I mean, shoot, just looking around in the world today, there's a lot of people that didn't get their bare ends beat with a wooden spoon or
for sure.
a whip and all that. And,
yeah.
And so, but what you talked about with your kiddos there, like, Chloe, that's so important to be able to, one, have those conversations, remember this, feel this, and then remind yourself of it before you do it to anybody else.
Yeah.
And then go try whatever. Like, find what you're going to be passionate with, because if you love it, you're going to stick with it.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I had that my dad was pretty open, like, play sports, whatever. His rule was like, you don't quit once you start.
Yep.
Like, you start the year, you finish it out. I don't care how bad it sucks. I don't care if you get benched. Like, you ride it out.
Yeah.
And those type of lessons just stick with us, and they help us whether we realize that's what it is or not until years later. But yeah, you kind of realize, you learn so much about why you did what you did when you get older. Like, reading the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, I'm like, every time I read it, I'm like, oh, that's why I did that. That's why I did that. Now I know. God.
Like what? What's an example?
What's a good example? Avoiding challenges, like in school, like school came pretty easy. And I wanted to avoid certain classes that I had to force myself to do more work because I was worried about what if I worked hard and failed at it? What if I got the C? What if I got the D?
Sure.
What does that say about me?
Yeah.
Versus like, no, this is just how you learn and develop and grow. And that's just an easy one.
Do you think that's like part of the school system though?
Our school system sucks. I mean, and I come from a family of teachers. Like my mom taught my whole life, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle. Our school systems are designed to push kids through and not help them grow and develop. And I say that because like I've spoken with schools over the last couple of years. The last couple of years have been a shit show for schools, for teachers, for everybody.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of mess going on with teachers unions that I'm heavily against, but here in Texas, like the teachers are still having to cover certain stuff, even though these kids have essentially lost 2 years worth of education.
Right.
Because they weren't really still learning it at home. So these teachers have a ton of pressure on them right now to get these kids ready for a certain level of state assessments that they're behind the 8 ball. And so there's a whole lot of like, how do we push kids through, get them out the door, graduate into society to be more cog in a wheel?
Yes.
Versus how do we equip the kids to learn how to think for themselves, how to treat life like a science experiment and try stuff and be curious and don't take failure personally. And it's a really tough balance for teachers because they're also battling with whatever's going on at home. And in an unhealthy environment, like school is the kid's safety.
Yeah.
And
God, it's so hard.
It's tough.
Oh.
And if you have a teacher that's pouring into you, believing in you, they may be the only person in your life that makes you think you can do more than what your current family
You're
can.
going to make me cry thinking about these kids
I mean,
that are fucking struggling every day.
It's really heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
And my mom was like first grade, second grade. So like
imagine these kids. So
yeah,
not to interrupt you, but
dude,
whatever. It's my podcast and whatever. There's a girl that I follow on social media. Her name is Skinny Meg, I think. And I'm pretty sure she got shadow banned because the name Skinny is in her name on Instagram, on her handle on Instagram.
Of course they would shadow ban her.
Eye roll. And the only reason why she named herself Skinny Meg is because she thought it was like catchy. She lost like probably 120 pounds over like 2 years. Whatever. Stupid. She was posting these letters to Santa. I'm totally going to cry. Posting these letters to Santa from these children in this Title I school. I guess those are underprivileged, underfunded schools.
Yeah.
And these kids, oh my gosh, they were so courteous and conscious of like, hi, Santa. How are you, Santa? How is this year treating you, Santa? I hope Mrs. Claus is being really nice to you. For Christmas, I need a toilet.
Yeah.
Or I need a bed. Or I need clothes and shoes. Oh, so she was like posting this on her Instagram and she's like, this is the Title I school that we've basically adopted for Christmas and we're taking donations. We're going to give them all toys for Christmas. And but all of them, every single letter was like, hi, Santa, how are you? Hi, Santa, how are you? And it was like 10 or 15 letters I got to read. And imagine if school is your safe place, number one. School is the only place you get meals. School is the only place where you're heard. Like as a person, I feel like the system as a whole is so broken.
It is.
I feel like society is broken right now.
Society is fascinatingly broken. It is. That's 100% true. In terms of those kids, I have a girl that used to work for us. She's a teacher in Houston. She works at one of the tougher districts down there, high school, I think. Yeah, high school. And she just posted one day on Facebook of like, hey, just happen to I have some students that I notice are wearing the same thing multiple times a week and they don't want to ask for stuff, but I know they don't have. If you happen to have anything, let us know. And I was like, I DM'd her. I was like, give me like all your sizes. And so we had a ton of clearance stuff that had been sitting on shelves. Yeah. I was like, I don't care about selling it. Like, take it. So we sent them all down. I think there was one girl we ended up giving her. I was like, she's got enough for like 2 weeks. So she's on a 2-week rotation. And like it's fascinating for Ace when Ace is sharing some of this stuff about what those kids are going through. But you look at where money's going these days, and we talked about it off air, but I mean, it's all this bullshit with the politicians. Like the teachers unions right now fighting to keep schools closed are doing more damage to kids because we're seeing skyrocketing suicide and mental health issues with students, especially when they can't spend time with each other.
What about all the kids that are being abused at home and no one's seeing because the schools are closed?
And there's a massive upswing in that. You saw statistically that grow. You're seeing in New York right now, they're forcing kids to eat outside at lunch with masks because we're terrified of kids getting COVID, even though statistically they're such a small anomaly.
So
and how freaking cold is it in New York? It's freezing right now, but yet the kids have to eat outside. All of these politicians that are lining their pockets from all these big companies that want to talk about what they want to change are simply just funneling money to each other when it should be going into these schools, not through unions, but directly through community-initiated programs that can provide the lunches, that can get the clothes. And that's where the big fault is everybody's distracted right now because politicians are and media, and they're media buddies. And if you listen to this,
it's going down, man. It's going down.
It is. I mean, like,
they're losing viewership.
Yeah, they should.
Hand over fist, day after day.
Why would you trust them? Look at what CNN did with Cuomo. Look at how they paint certain pictures.
Look at what every major news media outlet is doing about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial.
Oh, I was about to say that, but we heard all about Rittenhouse.
Literally, for weeks and months, we heard about him, but we haven't heard shit about Maxwell.
Well, that's because they can't skew the statistics and news. Like, you have all these talking heads on both sides of the aisle that will spout this stuff to their audience, and there's no repercussions when they lie. Joey Reid lies. I mean, Tucker's been busted on stuff for lying. Like, Cuomo, like, they are all as corrupt because if you think about how media works, they make money from their advertisers and their sponsors. And who are those but the big money companies?
Brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah. So you have, like, and that's the funny part is, like, we've gotten into this crazy state of where everybody's distracted by what they're seeing on TV and what they're seeing on social media.
You gotta turn that shit off. Turn your TV off.
I mean, even social media, it's not fact checking.
And it's like
people
being infiltrated too. Like, I turned on, so Wondery is a really big podcast network. I listened, there were some ads on Wondery on a couple of podcasts that I listened to, just like some kitschy stuff, like some fun stories. Like there's one that's called Operator, about a phone sex operator company in the 90s that was like huge. One of their ads was targeting children to get the COVID vaccine.
Oh yeah, they're doing a big Santa push right now with it.
And Sesame Street and everyone. And there was a kids podcast. It's called Wow in the World. And that's owned by NPR. And they literally have an episode about vaccines for children, explaining the risks and the dangers and the positives of vaccines for kids.
Which you saw yesterday, J&J just got recalled for blood clots.
Let them alone. Leave them alone. Leave our children alone.
We can't. And I was with some people this last week.
The CEO of Pfizer, by the way, is going on Lex Friedman's podcast pretty soon.
Interesting.
I cannot wait. I'm
interesting.
So
I get most of my news. I'm pretty intentional with what I consume. And most of it, if it's not on a local side, I'm going to get from Crystal and Sager.
Love them. Breaking Points?
Yep.
Love them.
Because they are both middle right, middle left, and they will call each other and they'll talk about both stuff and they'll argue, but they'll call everybody out, which they should.
Of course. Everybody should be checking everybody.
I mean, and they laughed the other day about Sarah Silverman, who is very left. And she got canceled.
She's like, I can't even call out people in my own party.
I know. And
what
she
does
gets
that even
canceled
mean?
by her own group. So, like, what you're seeing is, like, the extremes are making the most noise, but the middle's getting the most crowded. And I honestly think the next election is going to be a bloodbath because everybody's it's going way too far this way. I want no part of it. Give me a third party or give me the closest to the middle.
What do you think about Andrew Yang? Yang Gang. What about Tulsi Gabbard?
So Tulsi, I love
her.
I actually, and this is some of your viewers listeners may get very turned off. I really, really want
turn them off.
DeSantis and Gabbard on a ticket together
because I feel like they would balance each other.
They would,
and it would bring equal sides together.
Because you have a middle right and middle left, and you have, I would say, Gabbard, which is crazy. She was a Democratic candidate and the party ousted her.
Of course they did, because she makes too much sense.
Yeah.
She's not bought and paid for.
She went out and she did. She crushed everybody.
She's not a company man. She's not a company man.
And that's what we need. And so I think DeSantis handling Florida, despite what you see on the media, Florida has an older population And
everybody from New England, New York, Connecticut, etc., they all go to Florida to retire.
Yeah, that's where they go.
So they're all old people.
And so,
but guess what else they're doing? They're getting sun every day. They're outside. They're in warm weather.
Because in LA, we want to shut down beaches and keep people inside.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah. So
and maybe they're swimming in the ocean, so they're getting some kind of healing properties from the ocean too. Who knows? But they're still healthier.
I just would say, like, and I got into an argument with a guy 2 weeks ago while I was traveling. He was talking about how DeSantis sucks. And I was like, if you could live anywhere in the country in the last 2 years, Florida and Texas are the only two.
Why do you think so many people are moving here?
Exactly. And he was like, well, they're killing all these people. And I was like, well, not really. There's a virus that's killing people regardless of where you live. If you look at New York, if you look at California, if you look at these, like, people are dying everywhere. Mm-hmm. Most people that are dying are older and very unhealthy. Mm-hmm. There are outliers, and there are people that we know that have gotten sick and died, and there are random cases.
For sure.
There are also random cases of people that die of heart attacks. There are random cases of cancer. Like, there's a number of different things, but we've been, like, locked into this thing of, like, if you don't get vaccinated, you're a threat to society, which makes no sense because if I'm vaccinated, why would I worry about you being vaccinated?
Right.
And we just get into this.
It's like that my mask protects you, your mask protects me.
Yeah, I got into it with somebody on that too. But that just, like, it bothers me of, like, you can be anti-mandate and still be, I'm vaccinated. I'm anti-mandate. Doesn't make me an anti-vaxxer. Just means I like freedom. But Gabbard and DeSantis would be phenomenal. Yang, I would be okay with if he has a conservative VP. Yeah. And I think that's where you have... And
why can't we do that? Why not?
I think you're going to start seeing it. I think that's the election. And that's what I told these guys the other day is, I said, I think Trump runs. I think Trump comes back. And I think you're going to have a lot of hardcore right that are going with him. Yeah. I think, and my hope, is DeSantis will split or run under the conservative Republican Party too, but pull Gabbard. And I said, that is the one group because she's a veteran. She's on the Democratic side, but she's center. DeSantis is on the center to right, and he's all about freedom. Yang could run with Gabbard. I would still probably vote for them. I would just want a little more balance, which is why, what's his name? Brett Weinstein on Rogan was like, Stanley McChrystal and Andrew Yang. Like, those are the two running for 8 years, 4 and 4, and they swap role.
Why not?
Because we continue to give money and attention to the clowns in office now, believing they have our best interest at heart, when they don't. When you have somebody like, a lot of people in Texas hate Governor Abbott. He's done a lot of questionable things. However, Beto is a joke, in my opinion, because Beto...
But he's going to legalize marijuana. He's going to solve all our problems.
He's a lifelong politician. What's he done? He's run for governor. He's lost. He's run for president. He's lost. He's running for governor again.
I think the thing with getting caught up with false promises is that look at the things that Obama promised and didn't deliver on, but he spoke very eloquently.
Well, so did Trump, and so did Biden's already talked.
They all do it.
Biden said he was going to cancel debt, and now he's come back and said, I'm not canceling debt.
Exactly. Student loans, you still got to pay those.
You say whatever you want to get elected.
Back up on January 31st.
But Beto's first interview was about defunding. I think we need to follow Minneapolis's lead and defund police programs in Texas.
And look where Minneapolis is now.
Refunding all the programs.
Look where they're at now.
With a ton more. Putting all the money back into it. Did it work? No.
Clearly not.
And that's where we get all these talking points. We get these talking heads. We get, people don't understand, like, hey, we can have a conversation. And we did. I had a conversation at that speaker event with one of the individuals whose child is trans. We talked about the sports stuff. We talked about some of the transitioning.
What did that person say about sports? I am vehemently opposed.
I am open to creating a new division.
100%.
And I am, and their argument.
Shit, 2 new divisions. We can do men that transition to women, women that transition to men.
And that was my point to her is like, she's like, well, I think the numbers are too small and you're just creating more outcasts. I said, well, what you're doing on the opposite is you're destroying women's sports. And she said, how can you say that? I said, because right now there's a Penn swimmer that is crushing school records that was really good as when he was identified as a male. I said, you had an Olympian from Australia or New Zealand that made the Olympics that went through puberty and everything as a male. I said, you are destroying the sanctity of women's sports, which is why we created it. If it doesn't matter, we should just eliminate the WNBA and roll them into the NBA. Will they play? No.
Exactly. See how much freaking playing time they get then.
Yeah. So, like, I think, and I'm okay with it, these kids are not probably not going to go pro. I mean, you just need to create another division because that was the whole reason of men's and women's was competitive fair play.
Yes.
So if you're a biological male and you have transitioned and identify as a woman now, you should have your own division to be able to compete with other people who have transitioned as well.
Done.
I am all for it. Create that competition, have that. If there's not enough people out there.
And if anything, those people could have more solidarity on teams or in divisions like that because you get to equate similar experiences with your fellow athletes.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you see, I don't remember what fight it was, but it was a recent UFC fight.
We're totally going to get blacklisted for this because we're apparently.
I'm going to get canceled. Hashtag canceled. Hashtag done. Triggered
I
microaggression.
compete every day.
My company's going under. By BGP. But no, there was a fight where these two women were fighting. And after the fight, the girl who won went to her opponent and was like, hey, are you good?
Yeah.
Are you okay? That's the shit that we need. That's the shit that we need in every sport. And I think that would only be of benefit to people people that have transitioned that are playing sports because I don't know what it's like to lob my tits off and go play sports as a man, but you do, and other women do too, who are now identifying as male.
Yeah, well, and vice versa. Like you go through similar struggles, and it's the idea of having those conversations and realizing you're not alone.
And triumphing through those struggles.
And there's power in that.
And playing sports as someone who's transitioned, I feel like that has got to be one of the most, as a female who played in male sports, that's got to be the most triumphant thing that you can do is not only to transition and to say, hey, I was born in the wrong body. I don't fight that.
Yeah.
There was a girl, her name's Barry. No, not Barry. Sorry. Shit. She was just on Joe Rogan. I can't remember her name. She was trans.
Oh, yeah.
She talked about when she felt like she needed to transition, Paige White or Paige.
Something
like
who you're
that.
talking about, yeah.
Brianna White.
Man, we've gone through every name.
Every name.
We'll figure it out.
Every girl name. Alex White. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's Brianna White, but she has a YouTube channel and she's a little bit more, she leans conservative on her political views and her views about trans. And she's been called transphobic before. She's trans.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't think that it was right for me to transition before the age that I did. Number one, it's expensive. You got to have money to do that. Number two, like, I don't think it was fair for me to put my body through such intensive therapies, meaning hormone therapy, surgery, recovery, anesthesia, all of that multiple times, to then come out and be like, oh shit, what if I change my mind? You know? But like, still, they need to have their own division. Because you're literally ruining women's sports.
And that's where they get into like, and the argument that one of the individuals made back was, well, weren't there just people you played with that were insanely talented? And I'm like, oh yeah, there were guys on the field that were far and away more athletically gifted than I was.
Dudes.
But I'm like, there was a difference in terms of their build. Like there was a difference in terms of
they were genetically
their bone structure.
To be a good athlete.
Going through puberty and all that. And so you hear all sorts of things because people just want to scream and don't want to work on solutions. They'll say, it's no different than separating people by races. Well, yes, it is.
There was a school last week that had colored family park day or something, and I was like, how is this beneficial?
Because but that's where we're going. Like I talked about, we're swinging so far back. Blair White. We're swinging so far the other way in terms of. We're trying to create equal outcomes instead of creating equal working conditions. And equal working conditions are what we need because then it's your choice if you take advantage of them, if you do the work and you put in the effort. And equal outcomes is not. Equal outcomes is, doesn't matter how hard you work, you're always going to be screwed.
Yeah.
They can work none and get it. And that's
it's the same thing. What are you supposed to do? Argue if someone has a higher IQ than you? They were born with that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work harder, but you will never be as smart as them because they're just born that way.
But that doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win bigger because there's a lot of people that waste their opportunities and waste their talent.
I have some friends that have done that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
They were really smart.
So how do you just...
They didn't do anything with it.
But that's the difference between you having a victor mindset and people that love being the victim. Because the victim is fun. Everything's out to get you. It's not your fault. There's no need to grow. It's not your fault. You're perfect. Sweet little snowflake.
What a miserable life.
Would be because you avoid challenges. And what's the whole point of life without purpose and challenge?
How do you grow without challenges?
You don't. You wither, you die.
Oh. And that's it, man.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's the end of your story. End of the podcast, end of the story.
And then
we're getting
you're dead.
canceled.
Okay.
Yeah,
so moving on.
I mean, I laugh because and I've told people this all the time. I don't care what you identify as. I don't care what political party you have. I don't care what race you are. I don't care any of this stuff. I care, are you focused on being your best self? Are you nice to other people and not an asshole?
Mm-hmm.
And are you willing to learn and grow regardless of whether that means challenging your own beliefs or not? If you are those three things, I don't care who you worship, what you do, who you identify, who you love, any of that. I could care less. You are welcome to be part of my tribe. If you are an asshole, if you make excuses, if you don't care about other points of views and you don't want to grow, you ain't for me. And I'll wish you the best because it's going to be a rocky ending.
Good luck.
Yeah.
See you around. So for those who are listening, you've been on this podcast, what? This is the fourth time or fifth time? Fourth time?
Fourth time, first solo.
Fourth time?
I'm like,
but
I feel like we could have a weekly show called Getting Canceled. April and Jake.
Oh my God, how fun would that be? Let's say the most outrageous shit we can think of. But you own Compete Every Day.
Yep.
You're the chief encouragement officer. But when did you start that? For those who are listening who maybe haven't heard you before.
Yeah, go back and listen to the old episodes. Come on. No.
Yeah, come on, guys. Catch up. Let's go.
2011, I came up with the brand name in 2010 with an idea of how do I encourage people to not settle for what life gives them.
11 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
happy anniversary.
Thank you. How do you just show up and compete, not against anybody else but yourself? Quit living in comparison. And so I spent 6 to 8 months tinkering with the project, eventually settled on apparel, and just started selling T-shirts out of the trunk of my car in Addison.
What did you do before that? How old were you?
Let's see here. So I am 38 now, so I was late 20s.
Okay.
Coming out of college, I wanted to be a sports agent. Jerry Maguire.
Yep.
Went college, immediately to grad school to figure out how to do it. Spent 2 years in it, hated it. That was 2000.
Why'd you hate being a sports agent?
It's like being on The Bachelor without all the fun. No, I say that because like
all the girls or what?
Yeah, definitely that.
I didn't have any bitches, so
you have like 8.
It was a real drag.
You have, we'll say on a given year, you have 10 guys you're targeting. Throughout, we'll say February, March to the following November, December, you're calling guys, you're getting to know them, getting to know their family. You're going to break up with, say, 3 to 4.
Yeah.
3 to 4 break up with you.
Yeah.
You hope by the end of it, you sit down with 3 and you sign 1 guy.
Okay.
So in my early 20s, emotionally, it was a roller coaster I could not manage because you'd get to know a guy. It's constantly breaking up.
Literally.
And dating.
It's just like dating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, I was in love with you.
Yeah. And the guy I work for, the owner of the company, he and I are still friends. He's a great guy. But the agent that brought me in, who I felt loyal to, left, started his own thing. I followed him. Bad mistake, but followed him and realized he wanted to play in a lot of gray areas and not so shady. Of course, the NCAA is a joke, but areas I didn't want to play in.
Yeah.
And the last year I did it, I had 2 meetings within a 24-hour period. I had one in Fort Worth with a kid I went to TCU with, and I had to tell him, you're not getting drafted. Like, your dreams of getting drafted is not going to happen. You have a shot to make a team. Here's what we can offer you if you do. So I had that conversation. I literally drove overnight from Fort Worth to Lake Charles, Louisiana to meet with another kid who was going to be drafted really high. And he looked at me and said, if I could sign with you, I would. I wasn't certified by the NFL yet because I just finished my master's and I had to have it to apply. He said, but I don't trust the guy you work for.
Shit.
And I was like, that's all I need. So I quit at that point. I got out of the business. Kid went on. It's like the second pick in the second or third round. He played a few years. It was not a good fit for him on a team wise, but I got out. It was 2008. I couldn't get a job. I have an MBA in sports and entertainment business. I have a very non-traditional work experience between gas stations growing up and sports agent.
Yeah.
Best Buy wouldn't even hire me for the holiday Christmas shift. Yeah.
You didn't even get a seasonal job?
I couldn't even get a seasonal job. So I just started freelancing, like, who needs help marketing, branding, whatever. I taught myself basic graphic design, basic web, and just built a word-of-mouth consulting practice. So I worked with a couple of technology groups. I worked with an e-com group.
How scary was that, though, to go out on your own and do your own shit? Or did you just have the blind confidence to just say, fuck it, I'm just going to do it?
I had no other options.
Right.
I mean, it was back against the wall. What am I going to do? So I was like, I just got to figure this shit out.
You're like, I'm hungry. I'm trying to eat.
Yeah. It was like, you just figure it out. And I knew when I didn't want to be the agent, like, there was a whole lot of internal identity figure out. But I'm like, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
And so I just started doing that, and it worked out. I didn't love the work. I didn't like, especially then going in and talking social media strategy. Nobody knew social. I'm just like telling people quit.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah, quit posting like a billboard. Just start creating content that people want to read and engage.
Authentic shit.
And which is funny because I had a client, a big tech client that I did for like years. I pushed them on this, and they always push back. And after I left, like a year or two later, they got a new CMO, new ownership.
It's totally the same thing.
And no, the one guy, one of my old reps emails me. He's like, "You're never going to believe what we're doing now." I was like, "It's about damn time."
Well, I've tried to tell you.
I tried to tell you.
And save you a lot of money.
So I did that for a handful of years and then started competing 11, kept my consulting practice till 13 or 14.
Okay.
And then got out of it because I was just tired of spending hours there and dealing with just clients that didn't want to do the work that they were paying for. And then, jumped in to compete. And then in 2015, 16, started getting asked to go speak to companies. Had no idea what I was doing. Just showed up. Yeah, you did. Show up. Here's my story. Here's what I learned. Hope you get some value from it.
Okay.
And I had a VP at Texas Children's in Houston, Linda Aldred, who I'm forever grateful for, pulled me aside afterwards and said, "You need to go do more of this. Like, there's something here." And so I filed it away.
I bought a red blazer.
And
I've never looked back.
Not yet. 2016, I went to Social Media Marketing World to see some friends and learn. I was constantly going to conferences and events because I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, back in the days where we could travel without masks.
And it was a lot of zigging and zagging early years because I was just trying to figure out what worked, and I had no idea.
And you're being pulled in like every direction. Should I do more of this?
Yeah.
Should I do more of this?
And I was being pulled, and I was just trying. I was trying in anything and everything to see what would stick and where I could grow, where I could make money, where I could make impact.
Yeah.
And the apparel was growing, but you go sell $10,000 of t-shirts, you turn around the next day, you're spending $7,000 to $8,000 on more. Like
right.
You've always got to have inventory.
Yeah.
And I knew that was going to be a hard game for me financially to keep building on my own bankroll.
Sure.
So 2016, I'm at Social Media Marketing World, and I see a guy named Michael Port. And Michael wrote a book called Book Yourself Solid that I had to read in grade school. So I recognized the name. He was an actor. He was on Sex and the City. He was on Pelican Brief. Like, he's in a few bit roles.
Now
bit
I'm about
role
to go
stuff.
look this guy up because you said Sex and the City, and I know everybody that's ever been on that show.
There's a scene where he's in bed next to maybe Sarah Jessica Parker.
Is he a model?
No.
Okay.
He has no hair now. He has a head of hair then. Michael Port. Anyway, he built this consulting referral practice called Book Yourself Solid, licensed it, and then he transitioned. I don't know if I can even use that word this way, but whatever. He made a pivot, and he is now helping speakers speak better, but he comes at it from a theater background.
Oh, okay.
So you write a script, you table read, you get on your feet, you read, you block, like how a performance should be. He looks at a keynote
too,
as creating a performance and experience for the audience, not just telling them information.
Okay.
So I saw him at this session in Social Media Marketing World. The room was packed. And he pulls a couple people up. He's having them go through their talk. He changes it. And I'm watching how he changes them. And I'm like, this guy can coach.
Yeah.
And so I look up his conference. It was like maybe $2,000, maybe $3,000. And I was like, God, that's expensive. But I was like, if I'm going to do this, like that's a small investment to figure out, is this the right path or not? So I sign up. The event is Halloween for 3 days, October 31st, November 1st, 2nd in Fort Lauderdale. I had been at another conference in Vegas the night before, so I'm taking a red eye to make this event. As I'm getting ready to get on the plane from Vegas, I get an email from, or San Diego actually, getting an email from a customer, Samantha McCain, who I'm also forever in debt to. One of my OG customers is like, hey, I'm leading the Public Relations Association of Mississippi conference. We'd love for you to be our keynote speaker and talk about how you use storytelling. What is your fee and are you available these dates? I spend, not shitting you, 30 minutes typing a response. One, I'm like, oh my God, they want me to come speak.
Yeah.
They want to pay me to come speak.
Number two, what is my fee?
What is my fee?
$2,000-$3,000 to cover this conference.
I have no idea, no context, no nothing. So I spend 30 minutes going 500, 1,000, 500, 1,000, 500. 1,000, send it. She immediately responds, done. I was like, shit, I was too low.
Exactly.
So
she's like, there's no negotiating there.
I'm good. So I I have this whole new mentality getting on the plane to go to this event for speakers or learning how to speak, that I have an event now. So whatever I learn at this event, I'm going to use at this talk next year.
Yeah.
So I go to this event and I'm sitting at a table about like what we're at here. And there's a guy on stage. His name's Ron Tite. He's a comedian out of Canada. He does a lot of corporate talks. And he's teaching how to use humor. And I'm watching these guys at the table scribbling notes. And I realize, well, that's Jay Baer, who is a New York Times bestseller and founder of Convince and Convert Marketing Agency. And that is Clay Hebert, who's one of the biggest people in the startup space and huge success in Kickstarter and how you build successful Kickstarters. And they're just notes. And I'm like, if they're taking notes, these guys are legit.
Yeah.
What do I need?
I'm taking notes.
So we get to the end of a conference, and like every conference most people go to, there's a sales pitch at the end.
Sure.
And they treat it just like church. I see the formula now. Get you super excited.
I know.
Take you on an
Now,
emotional ride.
give me your money.
Give me your money. And they did a sales pitch for this program they called Grad. And it was 4 trips to Philadelphia for 4 to 5 days at a time. And it's essentially grad school. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., you are working on talks. You were with a speech coach, you're with a vocal coach, you're with a movement coach, you're with their writing coaches, you're with them, and you're in these little rehearsal groups. And so they're telling me this, and I'm like, it looks good. And then they roll out the price tag, and I about shit my pants.
How much?
$20K. And I had never spent that much money before on anything. And I'm sitting in the stands, and it's just that constant pull of like, if you want to change your life, you have to bet on yourself. And I'm sitting there looking at it. I went through our...
You're like, that's a car.
I know. That is. I know. And I like went back through all of my notes. I looked at our budget for the last couple of years. 2015 and 16 had been monster years for us. We'd done really well with Compete. I was able to pay off a lot of the debt I'd accumulated. And I was like, well, if 15 and 16 are good, we're just going to keep growing, right? Isn't that what happens in business? You just keep growing up. So,
nothing bad can happen
nothing
here.
bad can happen. So I said, cool, sign me up, put me on a 12-month payment plan. So I'll pay it off for the 12 months and just do a monthly billing. And sign this contract, pit in my stomach, terrified. And then was like, we're all in. And so I spent, that was early November, I spent December, January, February, March going to Philly. April, I went to New York to do a 1-day session with them and then film my first speaker reel. And then I gave my keynote in April. And when I got off the stage, I mean, I had a script, I had all of it. And my client, or Samantha, is like, you need to raise your fee. And I was like, no
yes,
joke.
I do.
So that was 2017. So 17 and 18, it was like, how many stages can I get on? I was speaking for free as much as I could.
Yeah.
Compete, on the other hand, was plummeting. Yeah, because I pivoted the business. I took my focus away from the apparel to do what I thought was the right move in the long run. 2018, I mean, I'm speaking for like free to like $1,000, like any local business, anywhere I can take, I need reps.
Sure.
The apparel, we went all in on events in 2017. The market at the same time changed in terms of everybody thought they wanted to be a fitness apparel company that year. Yeah. The cost to be a vendor at events went way up. So we went from netting profit, we'll say, of $50K was our profit from events that could help fund everything else, to losing $5K. So that not only did our expenses shoot up, but our sales dropped.
Yeah.
So 2018 was the hardest mental year I've had. I have a note in my phone that I wrote on May 11th, which is our anniversary date of Compete, of like literally dark depression thoughts of like, did I make the right move?
What the fuck am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
And I wrote it of like, I'll never quit because I would never want to leave behind family and let them think they missed something. And I also know the power of story, and no great story happens without
some
the
failures.
Darkness.
Yeah.
And I still have the note to this day. And I talk about it on National Suicide Prevention Day of like, listen, I know those thoughts. Like it sucks. It was that summer, I hadn't been able to pay my bills for 2 months in terms of Compete's bills. I didn't take a salary for 6 weeks to make sure my staff got paid. I had to let a bunch of people go at the end of that year just because I was like, we got to downsize. Like, that model for traveling, doing events doesn't work for this model. So 2018 is just like grit your teeth and get through it. 2019, I started getting paid gigs. The year started, I had a group reach out for like a $5K gig. And I was like, Yes.
Do you feel like it all kind of came together with the apparel, the book, the speaking, everything? Like, because you have this brand behind your speaking.
It was the brand. It wasn't just the T-shirt. Everything came together when I started going through the process of learning the speaking, the performance side, and then the business side, because I learned how to better tell the message.
Yes.
And the mission was always, how do I help people not settle? How do I help people start showing up for themselves?
Yeah.
There was only so much I can do with a T-shirt, and there's a million T-shirt companies.
For sure.
And so this opened up the avenue to say, if this is really what you want to do, here's better ways to do it. And I even looked at selling the apparel in 19 once speaking started going.
Yeah.
But it brings in too many leads.
It's just like...
It's symbiotic. It's great. So like the event I just did this weekend, or this past week for franchise owners, everybody got a shirt, everybody got a book, everybody got the talk.
It's all tied in together.
All tied in.
So then they get that tangible reminder of your speech and what they felt listening to you speak from your T-shirt, from your book, from your bracelets, from everything.
All of it ties in. And so
you're basically never allowed to sell.
I'm not.
Until you die.
Pretty much. So 2019, I started getting paid gigs. I earned enough to where I had an okay salary, I would say, speaking. But it pulled me out of the hole. It let me see, okay, this is the right path. 2020, by January 31st, I'd already doubled the speaking income in terms of contracts. Mm-hmm. COVID hits, we lose a lot. But we pivoted and I went into heavy content creation mode last year of like, how many more podcast videos, how much crap can I create?
Yeah.
My old videos and stuff suck. You go to YouTube, I'm like, I'll share them like every few years. I'm like, look at this from 5 years ago. This sucks.
But if you don't look back from 5 years and say, look how far I've come, then what are you doing?
And if you don't tell people like, this is where I started, just freaking start. So I did that.
Then they'll never start.
They'll never start.
Yeah.
And so 2020 hit. And so 2021, this year was like, how do you just manage? Like last year you had momentum, you lost a lot of momentum. How do you just kind of get through this year and focus on 2022 being the monster?
Right.
And I got incredibly lucky that I was on some podcasts and had some shows and people started reaching out. And the book was the game changer because when people bought the book, they started referring me to speak. And that's where
Which is kind of what people told you about the book before, right? Like you have to write a book so that you can come and speak and then talk about your book.
And that's why I lost. Like 2019, I lost 4 or 5 gigs because the event planner said, we think you're better. We think your message is better.
You need a book.
So-and-so has a book. We want a book for everybody. So I was like, done. I'll see you next year. And so...
Let me write a book. Hold, please. I'll be back.
Not as easy as it sounds. But yeah, I did that. And so, this year was about how do I create more resources. So I have a quarterly training and development program I do with an organization here in Dallas for their future leaders. We do a lunch and learn essentially every quarter on what is leadership, why we have to build ourselves, how we build ourselves, how do we build our teams, and then how do we keep growth going. And so we cover each topic each time.
Yeah.
I have a client in Florida who hired me to do a keynote. They probably won't hear this. If they do, shout out Neil. But I was like really nervous about them because they are really buttoned together sales organization. They're real estate investment.
Yeah.
Like the new CEO has a system and he is good at it. And I'm like, what do you want me for?
Yeah.
And he's like, come in, do this, like this stuff. And then afterwards he's like, I want you to coach me. And I'm like, I don't really do executive coaching. I was like, I work with sales, like entry-level sales teams building habits. He's like, no, I'm going to push back. I think you need to fucking man up and I want you to coach me. Here's what I want help with. I said, okay. So then I spit him back an offer. And so now we're doing on-site coaching for their team. So I go 2 days every month to Miami for the next 3 months. And we're going to do small group coaching with their sales teams and with their managers. How do the sales teams get better at what they do? How do the managers get better about taking action and leading their teams? And then we'll do executive coaching.
Oh my God. I can't wait to pick your brain on this.
Yeah, it's creating, like I have the content, I just need to create a curriculum for it. And so now I have a curriculum that I can go to a client and say,
this is what I got. This is what I can offer you.
So
this is what I can teach your team.
Yeah. So let's do a keynote 60 to 90 minutes. I can give you the what, but if you want to know the how and you want to implement it, here's a 3, 6, and 12-month program we can do with your team to really help them go to the next level.
Is this where you saw it going?
No, I had no clue. I really didn't.
That's the best part.
When I started it, it was life is good. How do I get to $100 million a year selling t-shirts and merchandise?
Right.
When I started speaking, I was like, I just want to be keynote speaker on the stage.
Yeah.
I just want to get in the stadiums. I want to sell out. Like, I don't want the Tony Robbins experience, but like I want to be able to impact people from the stage.
Yes.
And then once I started doing it, I was like, there's only so much I can give you in 60 minutes.
Yeah.
How can I help you further? And so the journal, all those other pieces have come on because they all support the mission. So going into the new year, it's really like, how do we further go down this path of a training and development company that also sells
that you
e-com?
never even saw coming.
Which is funny because like I mentioned earlier, my mom's a teacher, grandmother's a teacher, uncle, aunt teachers.
You're like, it's in the blood.
It's in the blood. But it's this idea that, I was told at 7, 8 years old, and then again in high school by youth pastors of like, you're going to be a preacher. And I'm like, I ain't going to be a preacher. You don't know how my weekends are going.
Probably not for me, just saying.
But it's funny now because that from a secular standpoint is essentially what I'm doing. How do I create words of encouragement? How do I equip you with the right mindset?
And it's not like you don't believe in God. You just didn't want to.
No, I just didn't want to take the pastor route.
Pulpit, right?
Preachers and sneakers. That would have been me. I'd have been in there.
So I want to pick your brain, both personally and professionally, as someone who was maybe never part of a sales organization, but you did have to do sales, right? You had your own company.
Yeah.
How do you really feel like? This is an interesting question. Do you feel like some salespeople are naturally born with it? They just have to refine their skills, and then there are some people who are just never going to be able to make it? Or do you really feel like you can teach an old dog new tricks?
I think you can't. Well, it depends on if the old dog is open to being it. I think it all comes down at the end is the ego and the comfort.
Sure.
I think there are some people that are naturally more comfortable in that role based on talents. It's no different than being a speaker. They're being able to tell a story, standing on stage, having energy. A lot of those things are predisposed to some folks. Sure. However, there are some people that you would think are super introverted that can get on stage and slaughter it.
Right.
Because they've done the work.
Yeah.
From a sales standpoint, I wouldn't say I was like good at it. I was just kind of like I was standing in an expo booth of like how do I get my shirts on people? So you just start trying stuff and figuring stuff out, and you devour as much info as you can. I think not everybody can be super great at sales. However, not everybody can be super great at basketball.
Right.
But everybody can get better at shooting free throws.
Yes.
If they put in the work, they build their technique, and they just countlessly get reps and don't care what people think.
Have you ever had to like tell an organization, like, do they ever ask you, like, in your opinion, what do you think about the people that you're training with or whatever? Or like, do you have to give them candid feedback?
I do, but I'm incredibly fortunate that if I'm doing a keynote, there's a few things. One, a keynote usually is at an association or a conference event, and it's tons of companies and people in the room. Yeah. Not necessarily just one group.
Sure.
Some of my clients, though, it's a one group type deal, and I'm doing a talk for them.
Yeah.
But you don't get a whole lot of face time. More of the training and development you do.
Yeah.
And so what they usually ask are like, what are your thoughts afterwards? And I don't really have enough to judge a full opinion. I can say, here's where I see there's opportunities. Here's some cool things I noticed. Here's maybe something you should look out for. But for the most part, unless I'm in the huddle with you, I don't want to give that opinion because I'm just giving a quick snapshot. So like with my coaching client now, I spent a day before I did the talk just having 10 minutes with sets of 5 to 6 employees. Just what do you do? Tell me about your role, why you got here. So I knew them a little bit more.
Sure.
When I could talk, which just helps facilitate that relationship. But now that we'll get into it, I have an assessment, and I want to know where you are from a fixed first growth mindset. What do you think your challenges are? What are your goals for this year?
Yeah.
So then I can say, okay, this person, like, they're putting no effort into it. That's a red flag for me. If they're all in, this person, hey, they may suck right now at sales or what they're needing to do, but they have the hunger to learn. Yeah. So if they'll learn and implement, they're a great long-term keep. If they won't, then they're just going to be a talker, and you got to get them off the bus. Yeah. So I think that's it. I think everybody has the ability to develop, but I think some of us are better positioned for support roles versus sales roles. Yeah. Some of us are great in sales, and we're terrible in management and leadership. We could manage and lead better, But a lot of organizations just promote you because you're really good at sales into management, and they don't equip you to manage and lead.
They don't give you the people skills.
They don't give you the people skills. And those soft skills that most people say are more important, because all we do is hire, and we hire for technical, we fire for soft. Like, that's it. And we need to be better about developing the soft. And I'm incredibly lucky that the clients that have come to me and that work with me are committed to developing their people.
Yeah.
Because they understand the key fact that the better we make you as a person, the better we help you grow, the better you're going to be for your job. And if eventually we find out you're not a good fit here, we can honestly say we've invested in you and you've gotten better, and wherever you go next is at an advantage because of what we've equipped you with, and we're probably going to leave on a better term because we've made an investment in you.
That goes back to the broken education system too, because it's like soft skills are not something that's taught in schools.
Budgeting is not something you're taught.
Shit.
Life skills
Taxes,
are
cooking,
life skills
cleaning,
are not taught. When we're
oil changes. What is taught?
What's the joke on Instagram or wherever about like teachers when we were in school? I was like, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. You're like,
literally, I walk around
that's
with
all
it.
I do.
I could do algebra in my phone if I wanted to.
So that's the funny part is like history, vitally important. We need to know what we've been through, where we came from.
Like Germany? They're separated the vaccinated from the unvaccinated?
Yeah. Like we need to know.
Did you forget? That was literally not even 100 years ago.
I know.
You guys are insane.
We need to know. History is vitally important. Math, to a degree, is incredibly important.
Why is history important? Because those who do not know history are deemed to repeat it.
Always.
You're dumb.
Fall of empires,
So
conquest, and I think with the right history teacher, it gives you proper context for, like, we talk about wealth disparity now, and there's never been a greater wealth. However, there's never been a better opportunity and a more widespread opportunity, especially here in the States, for people to have food and shelter than any time. 100 years ago, good luck with that.
I know.
If you're questioning how good you have it now, watch Paramount tomorrow night when Yellowstone 1883 premieres, and just see how the West was. Like,
literally.
Like the old school of like people trying to move west, and you have Native Americans out there that are protecting their territory because they were there.
And people are dying
left and right from disease and it's wild of how quickly we forget. And I think that goes back to our generation. We are really the first generation that haven't had and I'm going to say this, and here's what I'll say the context. We haven't had a major hardship. And I say that COVID was disastrous for the economy. It crushed small businesses. If you question that, you need to follow Carol Roth. She is the best person on Twitter to follow regarding what's actually happening in the economy and with businesses, especially small businesses like you and I are in.
Yeah.
But our parents, there were drafts. Grandparents, they were fighting overseas. Great-grandparents
World Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you're worried about getting drafted, sent off to war, and never coming home.
Literally dying.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds right now, we're worried about somebody's bullying us on TikTok or getting shadow banned or and I get that there is a major health crisis with kids, but it is in a whole different stratosphere than what our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents went with. And that's not even factoring in our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents that were going through the civil rights movement, and for friends of ours that are Black or Hispanic, and there was different segments.
Imagine being that little girl who went to first grade, who was the first one to go to a white school and was followed. Yeah. Imagine being that 6-year-old.
Yeah.
I have a 7-year-old.
Terrifying. And there's things that we have the luxury of, but because people take that for granted, and I think part of it's the idea that you can know what happened. You can, I love America. People that say the flag scares me, I do not get it. You have no idea what that flag has represented. And I know that there's different celebrities that hate American, hate flags. And
you mean like LeBron James?
My opinion is if you hate this country so much, don't live here. However, you can be disappointed in its past.
Sure.
You can understand there are faults, and you can still want it to do better while loving it.
Agreed. Having a sense of pride.
I love who I am as an individual, but I am no means satisfied in who I am and who I want to become. I feel like the same should be in you own the mistakes you have. You don't deny it. You don't change the history.
Isn't that life though? Like, you know better, do better. But like if you fuck up and you realize it's a fuck up, then you move forward and you get better.
Because people have the victim mentality that I didn't make the mistake. It's not my fault. They have the idea that if you make a mistake once, you should forever be banned versus you should be able to grow and learn through that experience. Here, let us help you.
Literally what life is making a series of mistakes and learning from them.
And that's the thing is like, and then having discussions with people who see the world differently than you to understand that. And
my problem with that is like, I am, and I feel like you're probably the same. I am 100% open-minded all the time. My issue is with people because I mean, I like talking to everybody, and I can use this one person as an example. He was a friend of mine that I met at the gym like 3 years ago, and we have stark differences in our political views, personal views. He's black. And it got to the point where the conversation was no longer beneficial for either of us because he chose to remain in this position that there was no growth from it.
Yeah.
And that's the part that concerns me is that people that choose to stay in this stagnant place because this is how you felt one time or because one event happened or even if it's a series of events, we can't make blanket statements like all cops are bad or the system is rigged or it's, because you make changes, like you said, about politics where the left and the right are fighting each other and they're, this talking head is talking about this person and this talking head's talking about another person of a different political party. And it's like, that doesn't cause resolution. That doesn't cause growth. That just keeps furthering us from each other.
Well, that's the issue we have right now when we allow the talking heads to say things and when we listen to them. And there was a guy on CNN, and I'm going to blank who it is, but I think he compared the Rittenhouse decision to Emmett Till.
Yeah, they did. It was a few people. He wasn't just the only one. And
I'm shocked by that comment.
It's a stark difference.
Because on the same day, or we'll say 2 weeks, Ahmaud Arbery's killers got what they got, and they deserved it.
And where was the publicity behind that?
Well, not only that, there was another individual, and I'm going to blank on his name because it was not publicized, and I know why it wasn't publicized.
Of course.
African-American man, police raided his house. He fired back at them, hit an officer, was arrested taken alive, went to court, found not guilty because it was all of that, like... He was
still charged with something like possession of a handgun because he was a felon or something.
Yeah, he was charged with
he wasn't allowed to have a gun.
illegally possession of a handgun, but he wasn't.
But he was still exonerated from the charge of shooting at an
and it
officer.
got no headlines.
Right.
But that's where like you hear things like that.
It's all about the narrative, man. It's all about the clickbait. It's
that's what's ruined it. Is like
it's everything.
When we became driven on clicks and how fast I can get you to the site. And sites like BuzzFeed and groups like that started driving it. But you go back to that. That's the Harvey, not Weinstein.
The guy from
the
TMZ.
Tabloid. Yeah. The TMZs and stuff like that. But it's like we become in a world of gotchas.
Yeah.
And we live with the one gotcha. Yeah. And we don't want to grow. We want to stick in a space. Like you talked about that one individual.
I can't. I had to block him on Instagram because the conversations were it was anxiety inducing because I knew that he would have something to say no matter what I posted. And I was like, you're just fighting with me to fight with me.
Yeah.
You are not fighting with me to see my point of view.
Well, and that's where you get the difference is most people don't want to have a conversation. Most people just want to tell you you're wrong.
Yes.
Because your view is different than theirs.
Yes.
And their view may be accurate. Ours may be wrong.
But my thing is teach me how I'm wrong.
Exactly. And for a lot of folks, there's no statistical evidence to back certain opinions made these days. It's what I saw on social media.
It's the same thing with like the trans women in sports, trans men, trans women in sports. I'm just like, at no point would a woman/feminist be okay with a man hitting a woman. Not unless he identifies as a woman. What? Are you kidding me?
But I mean,
domestic violence, since when is that okay?
And that's you're getting the name changed on some of that stuff. It's interesting, like you talk about, like, we talked about the cases. I heard something interesting on the ticket yesterday. They interviewed one of the homicide detectives of DPD, and that he was a guy, he'd been on the first 48 before the show, and
it's like all Dallas.
Yeah, all Dallas. And they were asking him about all these cases that get changed because they make huge headlines when somebody gets out of prison for being there for 20, 30 years, which they should
For
be
sure.
wrong. But he said, he said DPD has kept DNA for years before we could even test it. He said, we just kept the evidence. He said a lot of other departments don't. So when there's been ability to test DNA and there's we submit it to
The
back
labs,
our evidence, that this was the right individual. So you hear these cases and 100% they should be pushed. But he said not every law enforcement group had the bandwidth. Not every law enforcement group at the time, there were police officers that probably didn't want it. You have crooked people and you have shitty people in every single profession.
In every industry, yeah, for sure.
Every industry, you have shady car salesmen, which is why they get a bad
You have
rap.
shitty staffing people. I mean, I know some.
You just, every industry. And so when we look at outlier cases and we go all in on these narratives that are wanting to be pushed by media and stuff, because if we can control the narrative, we can control the majority.
But those are the exception, not the rule.
And that's the problem. Most people, I don't think, realize those are exceptions, and they get on their Twitter and Instagram and blast it out, and they believe anybody that disagrees is in the wrong, and they don't seek evidence that could go against it.
Of course.
Because
I don't want to prove myself wrong. I want to prove myself right.
And that's where I get in. That's where I argue with my mother-in-law now. Of she'll make a comment about Trump, and I'm like, I ain't voting for Trump, girl.
Also,
but I was like, Biden sucks. I was like,
oh, but his wife says he's fine.
I know.
His wife says he's mentally capable of running a country.
Doctor. But my mother-in-law, we dramatically butt heads, and I'm shocked by it because I'm like, what you're seeing and what you think the Democratic Party is now is not what actually is being promoted.
No.
And I was like, my wife will defend me on it, which is funny because it always comes up after she's been drinking. And my mother-in-law's been drinking on the holidays. Is she'll make a comment about Fox, and I was like, I couldn't tell you the last time I turned on Fox News. I was like, I'll give you 5 or 6 other things you can watch, but I was like, you need to stop only watching these.
MSNBC and CNN.
I was like, stop just watching cable news. I know you're home all day. I know you're retired, but
also those are tiny snippets of information.
I was like, I can give you a wealth of resources. And that's what Elena was like, listen, she's like, Mom, Jake will read both sides and be like, oh, I get that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand why that's an issue.
Yes.
And when everything happened last year, and we were probably, I think that's when we did one of our episodes 2 ago was at Shapiro's house, and y'all were doing, y'all had a pretty serious topic coming on after that. Like a lot of people, when the Floyd riots and everything happened, I reached out to a few friends of mine in the African-American community and was just like, talk to me a little bit. Have I done anything? Right. I don't need you to be educate me.
But then they say that that's some people say that that's free labor and that's our white privilege that we're even asking these questions that we're not aware of it. But it's man, I guess I've been walking around blind for my whole life because I don't know what it is that I'm doing.
That's where, and that shuts down opportunities for growth. And I think that's where a problem comes in, is because if you can't ask people, have I done anything? Is there anything where you've ever been uncomfortable around me? If I can't build my self-awareness,
yes,
I can't grow as an individual.
Yes.
And I think it's the type of relationships you have.
Agreed.
And so one of my good buddies, we get lunch all the time, crazy successful dude, wonderful family. He's Haitian. He was born in Haiti. He was adopted by a white family. He grew up in that household, mixed household. He grew up in East Texas. So he was kind of pulled between multiple worlds.
Sure.
And we go out to lunch and have conversations and we talk about different books and stuff. But it was kind of uncomfortable for him because he goes to a predominantly white church and he's everybody's kind of asking me what do I do? And he was like, I don't know.
I'm just a black guy.
I don't speak for all black people. You don't speak for all white people.
Exactly.
And so, where I think it is everybody got overwhelmed with social media.
Yeah.
And what was being pushed at the time. And I think there was a great value in bringing a lot of people's awareness to some of the things going on.
Agreed.
But I think the narrative got taken control of and destroyed cities in the process with Minneapolis's defunding and things like that.
Yes.
Which goes back to the point of we need more people in society who are willing to say, how can I learn? When I'm wrong, how can I own it?
Yeah.
And what am I doing today to make myself, my family, and my community better?
Right.
If everybody just embraced that mentality that they woke up every morning and say, what's one thing I can do today to be better, to make my family better, and to make my community better, everything would be better off because we would watch less cable news.
Mm-hmm.
We would not allow politicians to dictate what our stories are and narratives are. And we would start looking out for each other a little bit better.
Yeah.
But everybody's so just divided based on what they're hearing. And Jocko, I think it was Jocko talking about this, of like he traveled.
Jocko for president.
Jocko would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Jocko was talking about maybe when he was on Rogan's show, but he was like, he travels the country doing these training and leadership developments.
Yeah.
And he's in all parts of the country,
right,
working with all different people.
Yeah.
And it looks nothing like what you see on TV.
Agreed.
Because everybody at their heart really just cares, how can I take care of my family? How can I get to where I want to go? How can I be better?
Yeah.
And when you find those people, you invest in those people. And if you're listening to this show and we've pissed you off today, if you're still listening, thank you for sticking with us. But if you have that mentality that I just want to be better, I want my family to be better, I want my community to be better, you just got to start stepping up and looking for more of those opportunities because we need more people like you.
Agreed.
And if you're pissed off and think I'm wrong, I would love to hear from you. Jake at competeeveryday.com. You can tell me why. But I would love to at least have a conversation of what I said that was wrong.
That's where I'm at too, and that was some of the conversations that I was having with my friend that I eventually had to block, and it really upset me because even though our conversations were heated and they would get tense, like I would still be able to express myself and we would hear each other. But it got to the point where I was no longer able to express myself and he wasn't receiving the information with an open mind where I had to say, okay, this is no longer benefiting either of us. But that's what I asked him. I was like, at no point am I leaving my house and purposely being rude, racist, hateful to any of my neighbors, to anybody that's in my community. And that's where that shit starts. It starts with you. It starts with you in your house, in your neighborhood, with your children. So if you're taking care of your shit, then you don't have to worry about what CNN is saying, what other news outlets are saying, what Joy Behar is saying. Like, I don't even care.
Yeah, you don't.
Stop telling me that I have some kind of imaginary privilege because of the color of my skin. I wake up every day and I choose not to be an asshole. If that's a privilege, then everybody has it because you have that choice not to be an asshole too. Mic drop. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
But I mean, here's what I'll say. There are a ton of privileges. You have privilege if you're an attractive individual.
That's true, and I'm going to use that shit.
I mean, you do. Like, you think about it. If you have two people that walk into an interview and one is a smoking hot woman, super attractive male, and one is overweight, a lot of pimples on the face.
Yeah.
That person may be better qualified for the job, but that individual interviewing is probably going to be more likely to lean toward the more attractive individual.
But what should that teach you?
Appearances don't judge someone. Yeah, don't. But they do matter.
Also take care of yourself.
Well, that's the thing. Like I look at, you can't be a legitimate speaker, and I've talked to people about this. Like, if you are super overweight, if you don't take care of yourself, why would anybody take you seriously from stage telling them how to change their life?
Why are you inspiring someone even just by your image? And you don't, like, not everybody is born with the same facial symmetry, right? Or an attractive face. But if you work out, you take care of your body, you feel good, you exude that type of energy.
Let's talk about just doing that. We're not telling everybody you need a six-pack, you never need to have a donut. We're talking about,
I wish I had a six-pack.
Take care of yourself. Like, and you know it because you said it. The better you work out, the more consistent you are, the more energy you have. The more energy you have, the better you can show up and do your job.
Yes.
Better you do your job, the more valuable you are.
The better energy you are giving to other people, and other people are going to thrive off of that energy, and they're going to want to be like you, whether you're attractive or not.
But there's all sorts of advantages. Bronny James, he's got a lot of advantages. He's got a lot of privilege. His dad's LeBron James. He's already, not only athletically, he's got the DNA of LeBron to be gifted, but he also has a lot more opportunities because of who his dad is.
Right.
And so there are all sorts of privileges we can run all over the board.
Yeah.
There's also disadvantages for every one of us across the board.
Sure.
The end of the day, what are you doing with what you have to better yourself and better others? Or what are you doing to just bitch?
Right. And it's like you said, the victim mentality. Like, are you going to sit there and let your circumstances dictate your life? Or are you going to supersede your circumstances to make sure that you're better than you were the day before?
And at the end of the day, this giant discussion that we've had, if you're feeling as frustrated as we are about things, you just need to know the fact of the matter is simple. the more people that embrace the victim mentality, the better chances you have to win big if you have a victor. Like it does. It makes, I told somebody this. Somebody was like,
so pieces of shit continue being pieces of shit so I can win.
Yeah. Like,
just kidding.
I mean,
that was a joke.
A friend of mine was like,
nobody clip that.
Clip that. A friend of mine was like, man, I'm tired of dealing with lazy people. And I was like, why? I was like, it just makes winning easier for you. Find the better ones. Let the lazy people be lazy and then let them get to the end. And they're always going to.
Perspective. I've literally never thought about it like that.
Like the less people trying to be great, the less competition you have at winning the goals you want, getting to the place you want, building the life you want. Like the less crowded. That's why the road to success is not very crowded. The road to average is packed, bumper to bumper, nose to ass. Like let people that want to go that route, because what's going to happen is if you've read Bronnie Ware's Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, the biggest regret people have at the end of their life is I wish I'd had the courage to go after the life I wanted instead of settling for what others. That's kind of paraphrased. But essentially, fear talked them out of going after what they wanted and allowed them to go with what everybody else wanted. Everybody else isn't chasing wins. Everybody else is paying bills, clocking in and out, partying, getting drunk, whatever feels good, whatever's comfortable.
In the moment,
yeah, it's all about this moment. Greatness is saying, I'm going to feel good when I get to that spot. Like, I'm going to enjoy this process. I'm going to enjoy going to the gym before I'm at the weight I want, before I'm at the I'm going to love that process.
For sure.
But I'm not going to be over here and saying, man, what's comfortable is to hit the snooze button and not work out today. What's comfortable is to not, you know.
That's comfortable. You don't feel good.
You don't feel good.
I don't feel good like that.
And so if you look at majority of what society does, majority of society is not thriving. And so if you want to thrive,
that's true. Like maybe top 10, 15, 20% are thriving.
And you just got to chase. Like, who was it? Was it James Clear? He was talking about like outside of like professional sports and like maybe one or two other fields, like you could be top 10% in the world at a skill if you dedicated yourself to it for 2 years exclusively.
Wow.
Like 2 years, 15 minutes every day working on something, writing, speaking, podcasting. Like you did that every day, you could be top 10% in the world. Most people won't chase that because it requires time, investment, and energy.
Energy, effort.
So if you're listening to this, the more lazy people, ignorant people that frustrate you, just look at it as thank you. You're giving me the opportunity to succeed more easily, and chase it and be the person that inspires them, and don't be the person that hangs out with them because they will drag you down.
For sure.
But if they want to be mentored, create the opportunity, create more good people, because the better they are, the better they're going to push you, which you're going to find out a little more what you're capable of.
Yeah.
But we're going to just be able to weed out.
And you're never going to save them. Like you just have to choose to hang out with people who are on the same path as you. And I think that goes back to, you know, like
why we do this show every couple months.
Exactly, for sure. Well, I was going to say like what you're saying about the friends that you've had to selectively choose when you get to spend time with them and being around that energy, because I've found that there are very few people. My circle is so small now, so small. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't even know what episode this is, but it's probably like in the high 100s. I've made a lot of connections and a lot of contacts on this podcast, which would make it seem like I have a lot of friends. But in reality, the friend circle is super, super small.
It's important to have a large network.
Yes.
It's more important to have a small circle.
Yes.
And I think that's how you look at it. Build your network, know people, add value to as many people as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because the more you help others, the more likely you are to succeed.
Sure.
But the people you go to for advice, you spend your time with, you invest your energy with, has to be as small and tight as possible. Because
so small.
David McClellan, maybe from Harvard, Harvard professor, said and estimates that 95% of our successes and failures are due to the people we habitually associate with.
It's like top 5, right? The 5 people you used to surround yourself with.
Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 you spend your time with. Mm-hmm. So it's that idea. The people you associate with habitually every day, the ones you're talking to at lunch break, the ones you're hanging out with, like they are 95% of determining your success or failure.
Who are you hanging out with on the weekends?
Man, right now, biscuit and sugar.
Are you gonna have a butter in there? I think you should have a butter.
A butter. Yeah, we do need a butter. Biscuit needs to be a butter. That little chunk. Oh my God. She's a little, the vet was like, how much weight does she put on? I was like, my mother-in-law keeps feeding her everything she wants. She is a butter ball now.
She's so cute.
Yeah, it's funny for me, like I noticed, so I went to a lot of conferences and events early in my career because I was just like, how can I learn? What am I doing?
I'm a sponge. I want to soak it all up.
I mean, and it was overwhelmed because I was learning from people building online course programs and like so much. It exposed me to, wow, there's a million different ways to make money. You just got to figure out the one that's best for you and go do it.
There's so many ways.
And so that was super helpful. And then I got involved in a couple of mastermind groups and got really burnt out because one was just, it was a snake. The guy running it was a fraud. But I met some cool people in there.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was like, I want no part of this. Then I started the speaking program, and that was kind of a mastermind because we were all there. 24 of us were there together, training together.
Yeah.
And then the last couple of years, I was like, just head down grinding. And I looked up last year, or maybe at the beginning of this year, I was like, I have friendships, but I'm not in the same room with other people doing what I'm doing or ahead of me or behind that I can help. And I was like, I got to change that. So that was one of my focuses for 2021 and 22. So November, I went to a mental performance event with 40 people. It was amazing. I'll be back next year. Went to a conference in Vegas the week after that sucked, but I did meet some good people there, which was great. So I have some new connections there. And then in January, I'm going to another event in Austin with a small group, but I was like, I need to 1 to 2 times a year just go to these things. And the minimum for me is they have to be hosted by good people, especially after this crap show in Vegas. They have to be hosted by good people or good people I know are going.
Yeah.
And it has to be smaller events where you walk into the room and it's not a pissing contest, but you have super successful and you have super early people in the room and everybody just says, how can I learn and how can I get better? Yeah. And that was what I laughed about the mental performance thing, because you had pro guys in there, like pro team mental performance coaches. You had kids that were getting their doctorate still or it's not even doctorate, bachelor still in college. I was like, there was a guy that's a coach in there. There was me who was like the non-mental performance sports psych background person. But everybody in the room was like, how can I share what I know and how can I help everybody get better? Because your success doesn't take away mine.
That's what's up.
And when I left that, I was like, those are more of what I need. And so January, that's fully what I expect for Coach Darren's event. And yeah, I just think like if we as individuals could find those events and those people.
Yes.
And just
those people.
Yeah. And just go spend time with them. And you don't have to once a year.
Right.
But like if you were to trade, if you took 2 vacations a year, if you're like, I do a week trip and I do a long getaway. If you were to trade that long weekend getaway for a conference or event around something you're passionate about or other people you're aligned with.
And self-improvement.
It could change your life.
Yeah.
Literally, because it would change your relationships, it'd change who you associate with, and would probably, based on how these work, change your perspective on what you're doing and how you're showing up and how you could improve it.
Mic drop.
So when Compete Every Day hosts its event, get ready.
So how do you feel about, and we'll end on this one, how do you feel about New Year's resolutions?
Hate them.
Hate them?
Hate them. Why?
But why, Jake? I want to be
What's today?
I want to be a new me.
Today is December 18th. Why would I wait till January 1st?
But I want to be a new me. New year, new me,
Everybody
right? Isn't
does.
that the mantra?
Everybody
does.
does.
Isn't that how we do it?
Yeah, but statistics say all of you exciting people that are going after your goals
will quit before February 1st.
84% will quit before January 21st. 84% of people give up on New Year's resolutions within 3 weeks because you come out of the gate so hard, so fast. You try to change everything.
Is that because you get really sore in the gym?
Well, I mean I get that. Part of it, people go
that
from
sucks.
Never working out to trying to do 2-a-days or
Balls
go every
wall.
day. Yeah, and they get sore, they hurt themselves, they can't handle it during a busy season. Like
they eat lettuce and carrots, and then they're like, "Oh my god, I need a whole cake."
I have no injury. Yeah, so there's a ton of things. So what I always tell folks is like just pick one small thing. And that's like the book, the scorecard is just the game changer for that. But like pick one little thing that you want to do. So if your goal is improving your health in 2022, January, just do dry January. Don't worry about working out. Just cut alcohol out for the month of January.
Or you could be crazy like Sean Baker and do meat January.
Yeah, you could do meat.
Nothing but meat January.
Yeah. February, maybe your goal at that point is you're going to start cutting out some of the sugars you're eating and changing up, and you're going to meal prep 3 or 4 days a week. Like that's
small,
it.
implementable changes.
So then you've gone from, okay, I've established the habit that I can go a month without drinking. Now I'm getting into the habit of building preparation, because we know this. Like, it doesn't matter how much work you do in the gym. If you're not eating well, it doesn't matter.
Bro, my life. Did you see my Instagram story this morning?
No, I didn't, but I'm going to look now.
I put on 10 pounds in 2 days.
Wow. Like it doesn't.
I mean, it's probably like water weight
Yeah.
for the most part because I worked out this morning and then I lost like 5 pounds. But
like, so that's the biggest one.
2 days of eating bad and holiday parties and that shit.
Start small. Start small. And then the other thing I would tell people is put a calendar on your refrigerator. And literally old school calendar.
X out the days.
X out the days you get it
goals.
done. So if your goal is to drink a gallon of water every day you finish that gallon, put a big red X because you need to see the days you get done.
Your work.
Your brain needs to see the streak.
And
your brain
pictures are important too.
Pictures help.
Yeah.
But your brain needs the streak to keep it going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason 75 Hard has been so incredibly popular.
It's so hard though.
It is.
I still can't do it.
I was about to say, a lot of people
Maybe I'll do it next year.
A lot of people can't, but
Maybe I'll do it January 1st.
Maybe. Oh my God. A lot of people can't. But the reason...
Have you done it?
I haven't done it. There's a couple of reasons.
You know what I'm about to do? I'm about to challenge your bitch ass to do
Well,
it.
I'll tell you the reasons I haven't done it is because the travel schedule for me is really hard to get the 2 workout days in, or 2 workouts in a day.
Especially one being outside.
Yeah, one being, I'm not as worried about the one outside.
If you guys don't know what 75 Hard is, Andy Frisella, the CEO of First Form, created this program and wrote a book called 75 Hard, where for 75 days, you're having no cheat meals, no alcohol, you're drinking a gallon of water a day, you're sticking to a diet, and you have 2 workouts, and you're reading 10 pages of a self-improvement book.
Is that it? I think there's one more.
I think there's 6 things.
Maybe something else. But that's essentially, so I'm not worried about the nutrition. I'm not worried about that. It's the 2 workouts a day is very difficult, especially when I'm traveling a lot for flying. If I have a 6 a.m. flight and then I'm with clients all day, like I may get one. If I can get one in, that's my win.
Right.
So
it's just the workouts.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing for you.
Yeah.
For me, it's the cake.
Oh, well, yeah. This time of year. But yeah, it's starting small. It's seeing the progress steps. But the reason it works so well is it has little boxes you check every day.
Every day.
And so you just have to check the little box.
Every day.
And so the better once you start getting it going.
And people who use the app are more likely to succeed too because they have literally a box that they can check in the app.
Yeah, and there's another app called Don't Break the Chain that we might have talked about on here before, but it's a habit builder. It's like your calendar on your refrigerator.
I want that. Don't break the chain.
Yeah, there's actually 2 really good habits, or 2 really good apps I'll give you today. So Don't Break the Chain. Great app.
Okay.
Just X in the box.
All right.
Same thing as your refrigerator. If you
Do
travel,
you give it a list of things that you're trying to achieve?
One goal.
Oh.
One thing.
One. We're
Simple.
starting small.
We got to start small.
Okay.
Remember, if we want this to stick, we got to start small.
Somewhere.
So that's a big one. And then the other one is called Habit Share. And Brian Kane, I would say my mental performance coach, because I'm going through his program right now to get certified. It's essentially you and your friends download it. And you and your friends connect on it, and you each have your habit that you're working on, whether I'm trying to work out for today or I'm trying not to drink for the day or I'm trying to whatever. And you share it with your friends when you get it done.
That's what's up.
Or on the days you don't, you share that you don't. And
and they're like, come on, you effing slacker.
Yeah, and the idea is every day you do it, like it sends you can set a reminder, you can set the frequency, and you can tell your friends, got it done. And it'll notify your friends, you got it done today or not, which helps each other.
It's called Habit Share?
Habit Share.
Okay.
Which helps each other.
Accountability.
Yep.
You have an accountability group.
Yep. It's huge for that. So if you're wanting to start a new habit, don't tell yourself it's a resolution. It's a new goal that I'm implementing in my life. Start small, get an app, and get some accountability.
All right. That's what's up. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully we didn't get canceled. Hopefully you don't
we
get...
for sure got canceled.
Hopefully you didn't get too many nasty emails.
Our whole life is over. Everybody's blowing me up on Twitter right now. Actually, did you see the new CEO of Twitter? He's insane.
Yeah, you know what would happen if you just... Well, I mean, it's like Facebook, it's like Twitter. Like, they don't actually fact check, they opinion check.
Oh, yeah. Zuckerberg came out and said it's real.
I know. Mm-hmm. So, like, I
just think it's extra fishy that, like, Jack Dorsey is no longer the CEO of Twitter. Like, right around the same time, Ghislaine Maxwell's on trial, and a bunch of these other CEOs are resigning too. And I'm like, why?
Oh, the conspiracy hat's coming on.
What's going on? I need my tinfoil hat.
You do need the tinfoil hat.
But
next up on the Big Girl Pants podcast, Alex Jones.
Yeah, he commented on my Facebook post one time in the Joe Rogan group, and we've been homies ever since.
Oh my gosh.
That guy's nuts. Are you kidding? He would scream at me the whole time.
He is nuts.
I'd love to have him on though, just for shits and gigs.
He's got a lot of payments he's making these days.
He is.
He deserves it. But
I know.
Yeah. He deserves it.
But he was...
He has been right about stuff, but well, that's the thing.
That's the problem.
He makes so many wild claims that it's the boy that cried wolf.
I know.
And that's,
I'm trying to teach Chloe about that too.
I know. That's why
the boy who cried Sandy Hook, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got sued and he should have lost. But it's crazy because he was super wrong on that, super wrong for sticking with it. But some of his other stuff he's been accurate on, but nobody will ever take him seriously ever again because
he
lost all credibility.
Right.
And that's mainstream media, which is why we have these conversations.
Which is why I don't like them and don't watch them and don't fucking contribute any of my time.
Well, that's why you have a podcast, is so you can have real conversations with people and
find out what they really are. What are you really, Jake? Are you a chameleon? Are you a lizard under there? Do you have cold blood?
I wish I had cold blood.
I wish I had cold blood. I'd probably be warm all the time.
I know.
Okay, so for people who want to find you, clearly you're wearing your apparel right now. But
easy. CompeteEveryday.com.
And then on Instagram, you're at Jake Thompson Speaks.
That's it. That's
but Compete Everyday has a page too.
So I run all the social media for us. But yeah, Compete Everyday. It'll be apparel.
You run all of it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It'll be motivational quotes and apparel on there, some gear, and then my own account is more videos. Yeah, so I do like coaching videos,
Red
teaching.
Blazer. Yep. Where it's at.
Salmon.
Is it salmon?
It is. It's like a salmon-y color. And the only reason I say that is because
my power jacket.
No, I actually get called out by audiences if I don't have it because that's what my picture is. Like my headshot is that jacket, and it's a very unique color.
It is.
And I can't find another one anywhere. So, like, if anything happens to this jacket,
I'm screwed.
I'm screwed.
No stains. Better take that off every time
I
you
have,
eat.
like, every time. And I got it from Express, like, years ago. And I was like, oh, that's unique color. And so I was like, I'm going to do it because it'll stand out. And sure enough, like, it's been a hit. Everybody always asks me about it when I get on planes.
I need, like, 10 more.
I know. So I've been on eBay everywhere. I can't find it. And I'm like, oh, I got to take care of this baby jacket.
That sucks. You can't find it on eBay either?
Can't find anything that same color.
Express, where are you at?
I know.
Make my dude Jake another salmon blazer.
I'll buy a bunch of them. I bet, but it's funny because I'll like order like Nike shoes or like anybody. If I see something close, I'll order the shoes, hold them up to the jacket. If it matches, I'd keep them. But I haven't found a pair that matches that same shade yet either.
Damn.
I know.
Express coming in clutch with that individuality.
That's right.
Only one.
Only one.
Forever.
Nobody knew it, but I got the only one. Yeah, CompeteEveryday.com. Shoot me a note. If I pissed you off, shoot me an email. Would love to have a conversation with you about where you think I'm wrong and to learn more about
where I can
improve.
Opinion. Teach me how to be better. And then for everybody listening, thank you for listening to Big Girl Pants Podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at biggirlpantspod@gmail.com and find me everywhere you find your podcast, including YouTube. But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for listening.